Comic book cinema reigns supreme as Birds of Prey and Morbius both get new trailer releases, The Batman officially joins the MCU, and Joker leads the pack this morning for the Oscar nominations with 11 nods. Just days after its star, Joaquin Phoenix gets arrested. I'm Joe Acierno, this is Real Talk. Okay, so to start things off, I'm going to start talking about Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey follows Harley Quinn after she and Mr. J officially break up, and she meets a bunch of other, I'm going to assume, badass women. I don't really know too much about the comics, but the trailer just basically seems to marketing a bunch of badass women who join with Harley Quinn to rescue a girl from an evil crime lord, played by Ewan McGregor. Harley Quinn, of course, is once again played by Margot Robbie, and from what I hear, was the single best part of the Suicide Squad film. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Suicide Squad, I'm going to be honest, I never saw it. Never really had much of a desire to see it. Some people might think of like, oh, it's a little unfair for me to, I don't know, have some kind of skepticism for it, even though I've never actually seen it. But based on what I hear from a bunch of people that I've talked to, it just doesn't seem to be like it's worth it. And I'm not going to lie, I got other things to do. If it's one thing I've noticed is that I can usually tell how much I'm going to like a movie before I go into it. So you know what, I figured it just didn't seem to be worth it. So with Suicide Squad, didn't really hear too many good things about it, so I guess that's why I'm a little skeptical of this, even though this seems to be picking out the best part of Suicide Squad for this film, just focusing on Harley Quinn. So based on Suicide and really just the whole track record of the DCEU, doesn't really seem to be the greatest. The first trailer was released however many months ago, and I've seen it multiple times in the movie theaters before, in the preview section, and it seems okay. It seems like it's a lot of fun. But after watching this one, I gotta say, this one makes it look even more promising. I'm actually intrigued. I'm actually like, you know what, I don't want to see it just to review it for the show. I actually want to see it because it might actually be a fun night out. Of course, most of my hope for this film comes from Margot Robbie. I think she's a very, very talented actress. Loved her in The Wolf of Wall Street. She was terrific in I, Tonya. So I think that it definitely seems like she herself is having a lot of fun with this. She seems to really just invest herself in the role every single time, which I think for someone like Harley Quinn, who doesn't necessarily seem to be the most stable gal in the world, that's got to be an interesting transition to do for what's now 2 different films. She's the main reason to watch it. My only thing with Harley Quinn, at least in her representation in this film, I'm really not sure why she sounds like the love child between a Brooklonian and a Long Islander. Again, I don't know. I've never read any of the comics, so I honestly have no idea. If anyone ever wants to answer that for me, I'd appreciate that. But it's just as fun as Margot Robbie, as great as Margot Robbie seems to be in the role, that the voice every time I watch a trailer just seems to annoy the crap out of me every single time. I don't know why. Maybe if I watch this particular film, Birds of Prey, I'll get more used to it, or maybe I'll end up liking it. Who really knows? But that's one of the reasons where I'm honestly I have a little bit more confidence in this one. I don't know if Birds of Prey will be Wonder Woman good, because Wonder Woman, as much as I thought it was overhyped, definitely ended up being much, much better than I thought it was going to be. Like I said, because of DCEU's track record. But I think this one will be interesting. For whatever reason, there's a hyena in this movie, and I don't know why. It just makes me chuckle every time it's on the screen or it gets mentioned, because I just feel like I haven't really heard much from a hyena since The Lion King. So it's just funny. It just makes me chuckle for whatever reason. I think it'll be interesting to see Obi-Wan Kenobi as a bad guy. I wonder how well he's going to do in the role. From my memory, he seems to usually just be the good guy. He was probably the best part of the entire prequel Star Wars trilogy. So, I think I think it's interesting. I'm not saying that, he's definitely going to be bad. I can't even say that I'm skeptical of him playing a villain. I'm just very, very curious as to where he can possibly go, how convincing he's going to be, because it does seem to be something that's relatively uncommon for him. So, overall, I'm definitely interested in the film. It comes out February 7th, 2020, and you know what, like I said, I'm probably going to check this one out. It does look interesting, and especially after watching this trailer, it's definitely piqued my interest a bit more. It's definitely given me it's given me more hope. Okay, so in other comic book movie news, Thor: Love and Thunder. Think about that title for a second. I'm not sure exactly where they're going with that one, but given that Taika Waititi's helming this one, I'm sure it's going to be something whimsical, as per usual with him. But Thor: Love and Thunder just won the Batman. That's right. Christian Bale made the switch from the DC to the Marvel. I can't help but wonder what's making him sign on to this project. I've never really seen Christian Bale in anything excessively comedic before, which, again, assuming that since this is a Taika Waititi helmed film, that this is going to have a quirky, whimsical, funny edge to it. The most comic I've ever seen Christian Bale in would probably have to be The Big Short, again, unless I'm missing some, some classic movie title or even some unknown movie title where he was in a straight up comedy. The closest I've ever seen to him giving like a really, really funny and comedic performance has to be in The Big Short, where he played the eccentric financial guru Michael Burry, which he got an Oscar nomination for, very well deserved. It was terrific. So this new update, this new addition to the MCU, I can't help but notice just how many prolific actors are running to join the MCU or just getting picked here and there to just play any iconic superhero or even just any minor role that maybe doesn't have as much mainstream exposure. Because look at Robert Downey Jr., Oscar-nominated actor before getting casted to play Tony Stark, and now this portrayal, this decade-long performance as Iron Man is probably going to be the thing that people remember him for the most, and rightfully so, because he is just flat out, he's legendary in the role. He was always my favorite part of the MCU. So I can't help but wonder what exactly they have in store for Christian Bale. His role isn't confirmed at the moment, so I don't know if he's going to be playing a sidekick or he's playing a villain. There have been talks of him playing a villain. If he does play a villain, I hope they give him something a bit more substantial and not one note like a big chunk of the MCU villains. Because while there are certain standouts in terms of the antagonists that the MCU has written up, there are some very notable villains that just come off as very shallow. That, like I said, is just a stock character. It's just there to just push back against the hero. That doesn't really have us invested in who this person or who this character actually is. Like, oh, this is just a bad guy. But I'm curious to see as to how Christian Bale, again, like I said, this normally very serious and dramatic actor, meshes with someone like Taika Waititi, who has the track record that he has as being... If Goofball was a movie director, then that would basically be Taika Waititi. Okay, so I was originally going to talk about my top 10 films of the last decade on the show, but I figured, I don't want to overstuff this too much because the trailer for Morbius recently came out. So I figured, let me save the top 10 for the 2010s for the next episode, and let me talk about Morbius today, because this is just a little bit more recent and a little bit more imperative in my mind. And not gonna lie, I watched the trailer a couple times. I just heard about it today. I was just going about my day at work, and out of nowhere, I see one of my friends flip out and send the trailer into our group chat, and and I quote, I have confused screaming, or something along those lines. I watched the trailer a couple times, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sold on it yet. I'm really not. I can't, and the film stars Jared Leto. I can't even say I'm part of the I Hate Jared Leto fan club that seems to be sweeping the nation ever since Suicide Squad. So I don't know. It's just the film it just doesn't seem to stand out to me. I was a little confused as to whether or not this is part of the Sony Marvel universe or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the one that everyone actually knows and loves. It said in the trailer, from the studio that brought you Spider-Man Homecoming. I said, oh, okay, cool. From the studio that brought you Spider-Man Far From Home. Oh, okay, really cool. And from the studio that brought you Venom, and I'm like, oh no. So, I'm not too confident about the direction that this can go in. I think at some point the Sony Marvel Universe does want to integrate the Spider-Man characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because let's be real, that's where the better artistic craftsmanship is. And also it's just more of a moneymaker for sure. Not, I don't think Venom did necessarily poor at the box office, but in terms of quality of the film, yeah, Venom kind of had some glaring flaws, even though it definitely could have been worse. So far, Morbius definitely reminds me more of a Sony film, and maybe that's why it's not leaving the best taste in my mouth at the moment. So we'll see what happens as far as this one. As far as pedigree behind the film, no big names behind the camera, at least to my knowledge. As I said before, Jared Leto plays the titular Michael Morbius. As far as the comic book background, I'm not as familiar with the story as far as this one. What it seems like someone's dying. He quote unquote cures himself with some kind of medicine, having a lot to do with bats, and he gets turned into basically a vampire, I guess. The trailer showed him just like his skin looking all dark, his eyes are red, a bunch of sharp teeth. So I can't say it's a bad look, at least for the character. Again, this is based on my limited comic book knowledge, but I'm not so sold on it yet. As I said before, the only things that kind of are tickling my interest a little bit is that it definitely, at least at this point, seems to have a very loose, albeit somewhat confusing, connection with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the end of the trailer, you see Michael Morbius interacting with Michael Keaton's Vulture. So that I think is somewhat of a point of interest. Also, according to IMDb, J.K. Simmons is set to play J. Jonah Jameson in this film again. So those two notes, as I said, are definitely points of interest. But at the same time, I don't think, based on what I'm given so far, I'm not confident enough to say like this is definitely going to be worth watching. This definitely isn't going to be a repeat of Venom, given that Sony's working on this one more than Disney, it seems. And I don't know. It comes out this year, but I'm not marking my calendar yet at this point for this one. I know there are a lot of comic book film fans out there that are gonna disagree with me, and that's fine. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I'm waiting to see what else they throw at us before I can confidently say like, okay, I think I'm actually gonna look forward to this one. Joaquin Phoenix became the latest celebrity to get arrested at a protest of some kind. He was in attendance at Jane Fonda's weekly climate protest, where he had to say, "Sometimes we wonder what we can do in this fight against climate change. There is something that you can do today and tomorrow by making a choice about what you consume. There are things I can't avoid. I flew a plane here today, or last night rather, but one thing I can do is change my eating habits." This comes days after the Golden Globe Awards, where he won Best Actor in a Drama for Joker, and he had similar comments as far as the whole climate change topic and debate, where he basically he praised the Hollywood Foreign Press for making the Golden Globe Awards plant-based and basically vegan-friendly, and he also called out people in Hollywood for their own habits, and that a lot of times people who say things in Hollywood, who stand up quote unquote for certain issues, don't necessarily practice what they preach. This is apparent where Joaquin says there are things that you and I can both do. I've in quote haven't always been a virtuous man, but I'm gonna try and do better. We don't have to take private jets to Palm Springs for the awards sometimes or back. I'll try to do better, and I hope you will too. So I think it was really something for him to just stand up and tell people right to their face that you're basically acting very much like a hypocrite. If you really believe in this issue, then there's a lot more that you could be doing. Again, no matter how you feel about the issue of climate change, as far as the science and the facts and whatnot, because everyone seems to be getting different facts nowadays. As much as celebrities getting political usually leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I know I'm far from the only one who feels this way. At least what I'll say about Joaquin Phoenix is that it seems to be coming from a genuine place. At least it seems like he's practicing what he's preaching. He's calling people out for not doing the same, and he at least seems to be making an attempt to do better. So as long as he continues this, and again, like I said, however you feel about this issue is however you feel about this issue. That's fine. But I gotta commend Joaquin Phoenix for actually standing by what he's saying, or at least, promising to stand by what he says. Because in Hollywood, you have a lot of celebrities that, like I said, don't practice what they preach. Like, they, of course, shout all the positions on gun control and immigration and refugees, but, a lot of them are surrounded by armed bodyguards, or, like, their houses are surrounded by walls and gates and whatnot. So of course it's very hypocritical, and it's just not, and it's just phony. It doesn't even seem phony. It's just flat out phony. So props to Joaquin for, and again, like I said, if a celebrity actually has to get political, this is probably one of the better case scenarios. So, for what it is, good for him. All right, so Monday morning, the 92nd Academy Awards nominations were released, and Joker leads the pack with 11, with The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and 1917 each getting 10 apiece, following closely behind. Now, as far as the list of nominations, I honestly have to say that I'm very happy with what got nominated and what category overall, and I think it's easier for me to feel this way because 2019 was just an incredible year for film. It was much better than 2018, which was a very kind of mediocre year, and I think that kind of in part led for the nominations to be very mediocre as well. So this ceremony I'm actually going to be somewhat excited for. I may actually, watch it wholeheartedly. Just some other notable nomination lists. Jojo Rabbit and Little Women both got 6 nominations apiece. Ford v Ferrari managed to sneak in there with 4 nominations, including Best Picture. Two Popes got 3. Adapted Screenplay, Actor for Jonathan Pryce, Supporting Actor for Anthony Hopkins. As far as surprises, a lot of people were surprised that Jennifer Lopez got snubbed for Hustlers, and I thought she was solid, but I look at the people that were nominated, at least from the performances I saw, it's not that weird that she didn't get nominated. I thought Florence Pugh was terrific in Little Women. If there's one nomination in the supporting actress category that I was expecting, or at least hoping for, that didn't end up happening, was, if I'm saying her name correctly, Susan Zhao for The Farewell. I thought she was just wonderful. Her character, in a way, kind of reminded me of my great-grandmother, and I just thought that she had a very touching and heartfelt performance. Farewell just got snubbed all across the board. Awkwafina didn't even get nominated, and I thought she was terrific in the film as well. And if the biggest snub, at least in my book, had to easily be Uncut Gems. The movie got no love whatsoever from the Academy, and as you saw with my top 10 list, it was one of the very best films of the year, at least in my opinion. It was Adam Sandler at his absolute best. If nothing for that movie should have been nominated, if only one thing could have been nominated for that film, I would have at least liked to see The Sandman get his first Oscar nomination, because this is unlike anything I've ever seen him do before, and I just thought he was absolutely miraculous. I think this is a performance that's going to last, or at least stand the test of time for a long time. But again, I'm not an Academy member, so what do I really know? But as far as other nominations, there's just as far as the show itself, I think it's going to be interesting. There's a lot, I think, to look forward to. Taking on The Irishman for just a second, like I said before, I got 10 nominations, all of which were very well deserved. I can't say I'm surprised he got a visual effects nomination, because there were some people who complained about the de-aging of De Niro as well as the other older actors, but as I said before, I thought it did very well in that department. I think the work is just absolutely groundbreaking, and I think it's a new way to approach casting actors who maybe are a little bit up there in age, but are needed to capture the emotional maturity. We're playing a character throughout someone's entire life story. So, I'm very happy that The Irishman did get a visual effects nomination. The Lion King, I guess, it's not that shocking that The Lion King didn't get nominated for animated feature. A lot of people were expecting it to at least get a nomination for original song for Beyonce's song Spirit. But because I figured, I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks this. Everybody loves Beyonce. But at least The Lion King did get nominated for Best Visual Effects, which I think it absolutely deserves. I say groundbreaking for The Irishman. I say groundbreaking for The Lion King. It looks like you're watching a nature documentary, and of course you have just the emotionally intense story of the original Lion King film fused in with this documentary like CGI. So if that's another film where if it couldn't get nominated anywhere else, where if it could only get one nomination, I'd at least say Best Visual Effects all the way. I think obviously it did very, very well in that department. As far as the Best Picture nominees, I think this is a solid list. I'm a little surprised the Two Popes didn't get in there after getting an adapted screenplay and 2 acting nominations. But that's not that weird, I guess. Ford v Ferrari sneaking in there for Best Picture, even if it didn't get any other major category nominations. That's fine. It was a solidly entertaining movie. It was very interesting seeing it in IMAX, especially with all the racing sequences. So you know what, if that's out of all the Best Picture nominees, that's probably my least favorite, but it's by no means a bad movie. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. Marriage Story getting in there, that's not so much of a surprise either. I would have liked to see Noah Baumbach get a nomination for directing, but as far as the nominees that they did pick instead of him, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman obviously killed it. Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Todd Phillips for Joker, that's the one I was kind of surprised at, even though the film seems to be doing well throughout the entire award season. I thought that for whatever reason, my gut was just telling me that he was going to be the one that got snubbed, but he definitely deserved the nomination. It was an excellent, excellent film. And as far as the other 2 nominees, Sam Mendes for 1917, masterfully made film, and same case with Parasite. So if Noah Baumbach couldn't get nominated for Marriage Story, or same with Greta Gerwig for Little Women, the nominees that they picked it's a solid list for directing. Same with adapted screenplay. I think when I sent out my predictions within the last few days or for the last episode, I think I got everything on the money there. Original screenplay, I was a little surprised that 1917 got nominated because it's not, I can't even say it's definitely not a poorly written film by any means. It's just I didn't think it had, I don't know. It's just I just didn't expect it to do as well in the writing department. More of the emphasis seemed to be focused on the production and the filmmaking itself, not as much the writing. But of course, it was a very emotionally involved story, and of course that the filmmaking behind it and the techniques that they used just elevated it even more. So if Uncut Gems or The Farewell couldn't get nominated in original screenplay, then I think 1917 was a good alternative. The other picks in that particular category were great as well. Knives Out, I loved. As far as the acting performances, the only real standout that I can think of is that even though I didn't see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I'm happy Tom Hanks got nominated again. Who's supposed to be excellent as Fred Rogers. I saw him at least with the Coming Attractions, and he just seemed to be the perfect fit. He's my number 1 favorite actor of all time. I love Tom Hanks. So maybe I should check that one out. So before I ramble on for just a little too long, as far as music goes, or as far as any of the minor categories, there seemed to be good picks there. And again, not all of them were exactly what I predicted they were going to be, but for what they did choose, again, they were all solid nominees. I'm happy to see that 1917 got nominated for original score. Same with Joker. I think Joker is probably the frontrunner in that particular category, and obviously it would definitely be very well deserved. Randy Newman got another nomination for Marriage Story. It's nice to see him get nominated for something outside of the Disney Pixar realm. Yeah, all in all, this is a very, very solid year. Very solid year for film. Very solid year for the Oscar nominations. And that's all I've got for you today on Real Talk. If you have any questions, comments, anything that you'd love for me to cover on the show, don't be shy to reach out to me through my social media handles. And just in case my social media notifications and posts aren't convincing enough for you, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's literally just my name. That way you can receive the most current updates as far as everything going on with the show. I'm looking to expand the streaming of the show to other platforms such as Spotify and iTunes, so we have that to look forward to within the next couple of weeks. So until next time, I'm Joe Acierno. This has been Real Talk.